What's going on, gardeners? It's Tuesday, February 2nd, and we have had a terrible run of weather here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina. In the past week and a half, we have had an ice storm, an 18.7 degree low temperature, a snowstorm, and a 14.4 degree low temperature, making this not only the only two frozen precipitation events that I've ever had on this property since I moved here 3.5 years ago, but the two coldest minimum temperatures that I've ever recorded on this property. And with all of this extreme weather, many of you have asked me, how are my citrus trees, my avocado tree, and my fig trees growing? How did they handle this crazy weather? Well, I'm going to uncover them all with you. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell to receive new video notifications, and check out our Amazon storefront and spread shop in the video description for a list of the gardening products I use and awesome custom designed apparel and other gear. Your support is greatly appreciated. It feels like forever since I've had my sensitive fruit trees behind me uncovered, and that's a big reason why I love using these plant jackets. They are completely breathable and they let about 80% of the UV rays from the sun in, so you can leave them on for weeks at a time. And I think that they've been on non-stop for at least 3 weeks, so I don't even know what they look like underneath them. Now, the first tree I'm going to uncover is my Owari Satsuma tree, which is my most cold hardy of all my citrus trees, and it's also the best established. So I expect little to no damage on that tree. And this is what the tree looks like. In order to fit the plant jacket over it, I had to give it a pretty aggressive pruning. I also harvested what fruit remained on it because I didn't want the fruit to freeze. Because while a Satsuma tree is hardy to about 15 degrees Fahrenheit or so when well established, the fruit will still be destroyed if it drops into the mid-20s. So at first glance, there appears to be no damage at all on this tree. Just as I expected, it looks great. You can see all of the fresh cuts I made for pruning. It all looks very good. You can also see just how thick the caliper of wood is getting on this tree. It's come such a long way from when I first planted it. It is just the picture of health. So very happy about this. I assumed there would be no damage to this tree because brief dips into the teens are really no challenge, especially with some Christmas lights and a plant jacket on it for a tree as hardy as this. I'm more concerned about my avocado tree and my Meyer lemon tree because they are considerably less hardy. And wasn't it awesome how easy that plant cover came off? These plant jackets are really amazing. Now, I took a little survey of this tree, and it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but mostly good news. There is no major damage to this tree at all. However, it looks like there is a little bit of crisping to some of the most outer leaves that were exposed to the cold. That was definitely not like that before this freeze. So it looks like I may have lost a couple of leaves here and there, but not too bad overall. These leaves are a little bit yellowed. I'm not convinced that's due to cold damage, but you can see that in the topmost portions of the tree where they were brushed against the plant jacket, some of the top leaves do look a little bit sad. But remember, we're growing an avocado in zone 8A, where avocados should not grow. So considering we kissed 14 degrees and this is kind of the worst of it, I am not all that upset. Looks like some of the tips that I pruned, I got a little bit of potential dieback on those tips. But again, not a big deal. Now for some good news. Inside the tree, I'm starting to get the first few buds. That is the beginnings of the flowers. They will be the inflorescences, and I have a couple forming all over the place. Here is another flower that is starting to form, and if I actually, wow, even up front, I'm starting to see some flowers forming. That right there are some new flowers that are starting to form. And if I go around the side of the tree, you can see a flower cluster that's starting right there, and you can see a flower cluster that's starting in here as well. So probably within the next 2 weeks or so, I think some of these may start to bloom. So overall, despite 2 lows in the teens, a snowstorm and a freezing rainstorm, and temperatures all throughout the week deep into the 20s, this tree seems to have handled things really well. Again, a little bit of crisping on a leaf here or there, but overall, any of that tip dieback can easily be removed. It's only about an inch or two in a couple of locations, and the rest of the tree is starting to bud. Now we're going to look at the Meyer lemon, which is only about 1.5 years old, but I think the Meyer lemon overall is a tougher plant than the avocado. Even the plant jackets that I have covering up my sensitive fruit trees are frozen solid. That is solid ice. Wow. Now the challenge with the Meyer lemon plant is that it is covered in thorns. So the plant jacket got stuck to the Meyer lemon in numerous different occasions. Dale, this is not a toy. Dale thinks this is a ball for him to play with. I should probably put it away. While removing the plant jacket, ironically, one of these Meyer lemons actually, it was on the ground, so it completely ripened. Isn't that just a beautiful looking piece of fruit right there? It is absolutely enormous. It's like the size of a grapefruit. But now I'm going to take you in for a closer look. It did better than the avocado, but it's still not perfect. So all I used for protection of this Meyer lemon is this water barrel right here and 2 strands of incandescent mini lights. And if I would have built a hoop house around this, it probably would have done a little bit better because I had all that freezing rain contacting the foliage. And as you can see, some of the foliage did get burnt, and those are just new shoots, new baby growth. Like this baby growth right here, this plant is covered in that little baby growth like that, which is like little wispy hairs, and as a result, some of that happened to get burnt. So really no big deal at all. That's only like a day or two's worth of growth. So I could snap all of that off and it'll come right back because this plant is starting to show new growth everywhere. What's really encouraging here is that this plant is just absolutely loaded with buds everywhere. Flowers everywhere as far as the eye can see. There are flowers. There are flowers. There's more flowers all over the sides. So all of the flowers seems to have survived the freeze. In fact, oh wow, look at these enormous flower clusters. They just look great. So the flowers were not harmed by the freeze. Ooh, we even have some that are opening here. So it goes to show you how tough these plants are, and really not a big challenge to grow a Meyer lemon in zone 8A with a little bit of protection. But how did my baby citrus fare? I have 3 citrus plants planted back here. A brown select Satsuma, a Mewa kumquat, and a Caracara navel orange. And they've only been in ground for a few months, probably not even 6 months yet. They're tiny plants, and I was not able to use any incandescent lights to protect them. All I used were these 2 water barrels and a frost blanket tossed over top of them. It's the green frost blanket that I have linked in my Amazon storefront. And other than the protection from the overhead canopy of the trees, they didn't receive any other benefit of warmth other than those 2 barrels. And on the night it dropped to 14.4 degrees. This fell to 24.4 degrees as read by my wireless weather station thermometer that I have right here. So it got really cold under here. So how did they fare? My brown select Satsuma looks great. It looks like there may be just a little bit of tip burn on these leaves right here. Not a big deal. I think they're just a little bit crispy because they're sticking out and they were exposed. Tip burn there. That's not going to matter because in another 4 to 6 weeks, the whole plant is going to bloom out with all new growth. So this does not concern me in the least bit. The rest of the tree looks great. Right here is our little tiny Mewa kumquat. You'd think a little tree like that would be really prone to any kind of cold damage, but I'm happy to report that there is no damage whatsoever on this little tiny plant. In fact, the fruit on it is still great. Even the fruit was not harmed. I can pick this right here, this little bit of fruit. Boy, I didn't know what to expect in terms of fruit quality because I'd never had a kumquat before when I bought this plant. This is absolutely one of my favorite pieces of citrus. You have to own a plant like this. It is just wonderful. And then here's the Caracara Red Washington Navel Orange. This is one of those trees that is technically a 9A, 9B tree. I had a lot of people say you can't grow a Caracara here in zone 8A, but it looks like it took no damage at all. It doesn't even have any tip burn when my Brown Select looks like it got a little bit of tip burn. So really impressed. There's only one little downside here. It's a little tough to see, but all of these little black things right here, they used to be flowers. So the flowers over here on the far side of the tree that sticks out into the corner, it looks like the flowers may have got cooked a little bit. So I'm not going to get any fruit on this side of the tree right here because all of the flowers are damaged. This is the side of the tree that I'm speaking of. It's the side that is facing out into the back of the field. There's no protection from the water barrel there. However, if I go to the right side of the tree where the water barrel is, you will see up against the water barrel, this is all broken out in flowers that are healthy and have survived the hard freeze. So it looks like the added protection right up against this water barrel was able to overwinter all of these flowers. So this is just a little baby tree, so I don't expect it to yield more than a few fruits, and I wouldn't want it to yield more than a few fruits on its very first year. But it is nice to know that the opportunity is there. Look, even this far out, these flowers all look like they're in pretty good shape. So I know I'm going to get some fruit on this Caracara right here. Look, it's all broken out in flowers that survived the 14-degree freeze. So I'm just really happy with how all of these trees performed. My biggest challenge are by far going to be my in-ground fig trees. They were not protected at all. And while figs are technically hardier by far than citrus trees or avocado trees, they're still very prone to freeze and frost damage, especially if they haven't achieved full dormancy. It's been a rough winter for the fig trees. First an ice storm last week, followed by a low in the teens, and now a snowstorm this weekend. My fig trees are covered in snow. My Smith fig tree actually looks great. I don't see any weathering or shriveling of the wood. And the same thing goes for my coldest Noir, and I'm not surprised at all because these are two of my most stout in-ground fig trees. The caliper of these trees, they're pretty large, so they all look really good. However, I can't say the same for all of my trees. My Coldest Blanc fig tree here is going to suffer a lot of dieback, and ironically it wasn't caused by damage, I think, from the past two freezes in the teens. I think it got bit really early in the season when it fell into the mid to upper 20s. I think for whatever reason it was just slow into getting into dormancy, and if a fig tree doesn't fall into dormancy quickly, it's very prone to die back at very high temperatures. And I'll bring in closer and show you what I mean. You can see right here how black this bud is. This is probably fully died back. If I were to cut off a little bit of the bark here, this should be green. You should see green cambium right there, but the fact that it is brown indicates that the wood is dead. It's not going to, let me go a little bit deeper. Yeah, that wood is completely dead, so I think I'm going to totally lose those cordons. If I trace that cordon down, and see if I can find any green on it anywhere. It looks like right here. Now that wood looks kind of rotten and mushy. Nothing good there. If I go back here, it looks like it's starting to become green. My guess is it is probably completely died back to probably the node against the trunk. So I'm guessing I'm probably going to have to bring the tree back and reestablish cordons. And this is just a problem with fig trees. They are, yeah, see, it's green there, so that looks like it's still alive. It will come back. It's just very annoying and disheartening when you lose trees like this, or at least parts of trees like this. Even my Italian 258, which is probably my stoutest and most vigorous and biggest fig tree, it looks like it even suffered a little bit of cold damage on the upper cordon on the left. You can actually see the wood on it. It looks like it's kind of shriveled up and desiccated. But if I were to take this knife and cut into it, will I find any green? And actually, I'm not seeing any green on this cordon at all. That is a really bad sign. That means I probably have lost this upper cordon right here. But you can see how bizarre figs are because I actually moved to a higher part of the cordon and it looks green here. So how can it be alive up here at the top of the cordon and dead over here near the bottom? So I don't know the answer to that question. We are going to have to wait until spring comes to really see the extent of the damage and see what parts of the tree wake up and what parts of the tree don't wake up. That's the only way we can know for sure, and it really makes it difficult to find cold damage on deciduous trees. So overall, ironically, I'm thrilled with the way that my tropical trees handled the really bad temperatures. The citrus and the avocado flew through with flying colors. The plant jackets work, the incandescent Christmas lights work, the water barrels work. They can protect you all the way down into the low teens, possibly even lower. As usual, the fig trees were a bit of a mixed bag. Figs can be both one of the easiest trees to grow and one of the most difficult and temperamental trees to grow, and they're always a mixed bag here in the southeast, and it's so dependent on how cold your weather is and how late and early your frosts are. This is just not the proper climate for figs. They are from Mediterranean climates that are a little bit more stable than what we get here. So everybody, I sure hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you're notified when we release more videos like these. If you're curious about any of the products that I use, they are all linked down below in my Amazon storefront in the video description. Also check out my spread shop for custom merch if you want to support the channel. I will continue to track these trees and I'll give you a full update on how the figs do once they wake up for the spring. Thanks again so much for watching, and I hope to see all of you again on the next video. Dale, what's all this now? What's all this weird stuff coming out of the sky? Bless you. What do you think? Oh, this is no good, isn't it? That's cold on the paws. Wow, it's really coming down, buddy. What's wrong, Dale? Don't you like the snow? Wait, whoa. Get him in the towel, get him in the towel, get him in the towel. Oh, forget this, I'm done. No more snow for me. This is Dale's first ever real snow.